I met Emily when we were still figuring out who we wanted to be, and we grew into our future side by side. We worked hard, saved what we could, and dreamed about children running around our small but happy home. I fixed wires and circuits every day, while she tried to climb the ladder in a polished corporate world. We balanced each other, her creativity and my hands-on problem solving, a perfect pair in our own eyes. I believed nothing could shake what we built, because we respected each other more than anything else. But temptation often arrives dressed as opportunity, and for Emily it came in the form of a new boss. Andrew Collins walked into her company like a king returning to his castle, oozing confidence and power. He was wealthy, older, experienced, and he made sure everyone noticed the expensive watch on his wrist. Emily told me he always complimented her work and her smile, maybe too often to be professional. I laughed it off at first, because I trusted her more than I trusted myself. But I didn't know the real danger wasn't him. It was the people who fed the fire he started. Her coworkers seemed friendly at first, but friendship can hide sharp edges and cruel intentions. Brittany acted like a mentor, always giving advice that sounded like poison dipped in sugar. Stacy talked about how women should use every chance to improve their social standing and security. Olivia complained about men who hold their wives back from becoming someone important in life. Chloe scrolled through luxury vacations online and told Emily she deserved to be in those pictures too. They studied Emily's insecurities, the tiny doubts every person has, and turned them into growing fears. They mocked our modest lifestyle, our older cars, and our simple weekend dinners at home. Each comment wasn't direct, but the message was loud enough to shake her confidence. "You're too young to settle for average," they would tell her with smug smiles and jealous hearts. I didn't see the storm forming because Emily kept smiling and saying everything was fine. I thought those women were just bored with their own lives and liked to gossip for entertainment. I never imagined they were actively trying to rewrite Emily's story with someone else in my place. They promised her excitement, elegance, gifts, and a life above the one she came home to every night. They made her wonder if love without luxury could survive in a world obsessed with wealth. She began asking me strange questions about regret and missed opportunities that made me uneasy. But I believed honesty and trust were enough to silence outside voices trying to interfere. I assumed marriage vows meant something strong and unbreakable, even when challenged by pressure. I didn't know every day at work was another step away from me and towards their fantasy. And while I kept thinking everything was normal, they were plotting a different future for my wife. By the time I started to notice the distance in her eyes, the damage had already begun. Tuesday night changed everything, and it began with a single message lighting up Emily's phone on our kitchen counter. She had just stepped into the shower, humming like nothing in the world was wrong or about to collapse. The screen flashed with a notification from a group that I had never seen or heard her mention before. The name hit me like a punch: Emily's New Life. Curiosity mixed with dread as I unlocked her phone, telling myself I just wanted to protect what we had. What I found inside was a reality I never imagined could exist in our marriage built on trust. There were months of messages, lines and lines of plans and strategies, like a twisted business proposal. Brittany was the ringleader, writing paragraphs about how Emily could upgrade without consequences. They said I was a safety net, a backup man, someone to keep around until a richer future was secured. Every message mocked the life we worked so hard to build, labeling it cheap, boring, and beneath Emily. They discussed fake excuses for late nights, lies to tell me, and ways to hide expensive gifts. They treated cheating like a promotion, something to celebrate if she played her cards right. With each swipe, another slice of betrayal cut deeper into my chest, leaving me breathless and shaking. I saw Emily asking questions, hesitant but interested, craving reassurance that she wasn't doing anything wrong. Her doubt was their favorite toy, and they molded it into desire and ambition with cruel precision. I realized they had been slowly erasing my place in her life, while I cooked dinner and held her hand. My heart pounded as I read Brittany's instructions on how Emily could move from wife to mistress smoothly. They told her feelings didn't matter if money and status were waiting on the other side of guilt. They called marriage just paperwork and mocked anyone who stayed loyal without financial benefits. The shower kept running, and I kept scrolling, drowning in a flood of truths I never asked to know. When Emily walked out in a towel, she saw my face before she saw the phone in my hand. Everything drained from her expression, as she realized the secret world she hid was no longer hidden. She collapsed into tears, shaking and begging me to understand how trapped she had felt by their words. She said she never crossed any line, but the group convinced her that she deserved something more. She confessed that attention from Andrew made her feel powerful in ways she had never felt before. Her voice cracked as she swore she still loved me and didn't want to hurt the life we created together. I wanted to scream, but instead I just stared at the woman I thought I knew completely. The betrayal wasn't a physical one, not yet, but the emotional damage was already devastating. We stayed up for hours, hashing through every fear, every message, every moment she let them influence her. I forgave her that night, but forgiveness did not erase the betrayal stored forever in those screenshots. And while she tried to rebuild trust, I made a silent vow to ensure that the people responsible paid for every word they wrote. I started digging into Andrew first, because he was the one who set everything in motion. A quick search turned up a messy divorce that read like a pattern of affairs and manipulation. There were public posts from his ex-wife that hinted at infidelities while he claimed innocence. Old forum threads and reviews painted a picture of a man who charmed then discarded women. I printed what I could find and saved screenshots into a folder labeled Andrew Morrison Notes. Next, I looked at the 4 coworkers who'd formed the group chat and saw a different kind of picture. Brittany curated an image of luxury online, but her public records told another story. Eviction filings and small claims judgments suggested she had been living beyond her means. Stacy had a history at a previous job where workplace romances ended in scandal. Olivia's social media showed expensive dinners, but little evidence of who paid for them. Chloe posted non-stop travel photos, yet property records showed shared rentals and roommate leases. I cross-referenced their online personas with county records and business filings. Public documents do not lie, and they filled in the gaps between the glossy Instagram posts. Then I started contacting people who had crossed paths with them in the past. An ex of Brittany's answered my message and admitted the luxury boyfriend was mostly for show. He sent old messages that matched the staged photos Brittany used for likes and attention. A former coworker of Stacy's gave me the names of managers and the timeline of her firing. I archived every message, every post, and every public remark into organized subfolders. I downloaded company reviews that mentioned Andrew's inappropriate behavior in vague, but telling terms. I found a blog post by a woman who described a pattern that matched multiple reports against him. Her story echoed the same predatory language and power dynamics I had begun to suspect. I made physical copies too, and printed critical screenshots to keep a paper trail. There is comfort in seeing evidence in your hands when you feel powerless otherwise. I spent nights compiling timelines that matched messages, dinners, and the expensive gifts. Mapping dates helped me see overlap between Andrew's advances and the coworkers' encouragement. It was methodical and merciless work, but necessary to show this was not casual gossip. I also documented Emily's own messages carefully to prove she had been pressured, not plotting. Her texts showed confusion and doubt rather than intent to sabotage our marriage. With a stack of digital files and printed pages, I started drafting summaries for each person. Each profile included employment history, public records, social media inconsistencies, and witness contacts. I labeled sections financial instability, patterned behavior, and coordination evidence for clarity. All of this prepared me to take targeted steps that would protect Emily and expose the scheme. I knew how delicate this was, and I moved slow to avoid any unnecessary accusations. Every fact was checked twice, and every screenshot was time-stamped and stored in multiple places. What began as anger slowly turned into a cold, organized effort to make the truth undeniable. By the time I stopped for the night, the folder on my laptop felt heavy with proof and possibility. The annual holiday party became the perfect stage for the first strike in my quiet war against them. Emily hoped the event would help things feel normal again, but normal had already died in our kitchen. I put on my one good suit. While rehearsing every calm smile, I planned to aim like a weapon. The hotel ballroom shimmered with gold decorations and empty laughter that echoed money and ego. Emily looked stunning beside me, unaware of the exact moment I would start turning the game around. I spotted Brittany and the others gathered at the bar, whispering and scanning the room like hawks. They smiled when they noticed us, trying to appear innocent even with guilt burning behind their eyes. I shook hands with executives, complimented Dacre, and played the supportive husband to perfection. Emily chatted with coworkers who weren't plotting against her future, like the ones watching from afar. Then Brittany approached with the confidence of someone who believed lies could hide behind charm. She said she had heard so much about me, and that Emily was lucky to have such a devoted partner. Her tone carried poison, a reminder that she once thought she could rewrite Emily's loyalty at will. I held eye contact and thanked her for all the guidance she had offered to Emily recently. I kept my voice soft as I asked if Emily's new life was coming along the way she expected. Her expression collapsed instantly, color draining like a confession she wasn't ready to speak aloud. Her gaze darted toward the others, and suddenly they, too, looked terrified and unsteady. I sipped my drink and simply said she should take better care of the stories she tells in messages. She stuttered something about misunderstandings, but her panic said otherwise louder than any lie. Emily joined us confused, unaware of the tension cutting sharper than any knife between us. Brittany excused herself and ran to Stacy, Olivia, and Chloe, panic tightening every gesture she made. They huddled together, throwing frantic glances in our direction like prey sensing a hunter near. I didn't approach them again, because fear grows stronger when silence leaves space for imagination. All night, they watched me like I was a ticking bomb, counting down to an explosion they couldn't stop. Andrew arrived late, confident and oblivious, shaking hands like he owned the oxygen in the room. He noticed Emily but quickly looked away when he realized I wasn't the type to ignore his arrogance. Their alliance had thrived in shadows where secrets felt safe, but now every move felt exposed. Emily sensed something was wrong and asked if I wanted to leave early, but I smiled and stayed calm. I wanted them to feel every second of uncertainty, every drop of fear that comes from losing control. The party ended with brittle smiles and rushed goodbyes from the people who once felt untouchable. Emily and I walked out arm in arm, but my mind was already planning the next step in silence. The first warning had been delivered, and now they understood they were no longer hidden or protected. I had not raised my voice, not made a scene, not even threatened them directly, yet they were shaking. Revenge did not need to be loud. It only needed to be precise. And the precision had only just begun. Corporate rumors started spreading fast, like smoke from a fire no one wanted to admit existed. My anonymous report about Andrew reached the outside consultant, who reviewed harassment concerns. Soon multiple women stepped forward describing his inappropriate comments and unwanted attention at work. Andrew's confident posture shifted to paranoia as supervisors called him into closed-door meetings repeatedly. Sarah told me he no longer handed out expensive gifts or invited staff to private dinners anymore. He paced hallways like a hunter who suddenly realized he was being hunted by something bigger. Meanwhile, Brittany and her friends were slowly losing control of the narrative they once directed proudly. They cornered Emily in quiet hallways asking whether she had mentioned anything to me about the chat. Emily denied everything while acting confused, letting panic chew at them from the inside out. Every text they sent each other now sounded like fear, disguised as forced reassurance. Their plan crumbled because the lies that held it together were no longer secret or stable. Andrew eventually confronted another married coworker he had targeted, assuming she betrayed him to corporate. The woman realized instantly she was just one name on his list of conquests and felt sick. Her husband learned the truth and responded with rage that demanded legal accountability and justice. Lawyers became involved, and conversations turned into statements recorded for potential lawsuits and settlements. Corporate legal teams started reviewing digital communications for misconduct and toxic influence between employees. Andrew's situation worsened as he realized his charm no longer protected him from consequences. He stopped smiling in the office and avoided the women he once pursued so confidently. Then Brittany made the biggest mistake she could make by approaching Emily again aggressively. She begged Emily to delete the group chat messages, claiming it had been harmless girl talk. Emily walked away without a promise, giving Brittany no comfort and even more fear to swallow. That was the moment I knew they were ready for the next hit that I carefully prepared. I drafted detailed summaries of each woman's digital footprints and manipulative behavior toward Emily. Every screenshot was organized to show pressure tactics and coordinated attempts to sabotage my marriage. Emily saw the files one evening and whispered that she never knew they were capable of such cruelty. I reassured her she didn't need to fight them anymore because I already had a plan in motion. I forwarded the screenshots and documentation to the lawyer representing the other husband's complaint. He thanked me like I had given him the final missing puzzle pieces to prove systemic misconduct. Within days, corporate suspended Brittany, Stacy, Olivia, and Chloe as investigations intensified rapidly. HR interviews questioned their involvement in encouraging affairs and hostile work environments. Their polished confidence cracked into excuses, denials, and tearful blame thrown at each other desperately. They tried to rewrite history as jokes and exaggerations, but the evidence was too clear to twist. Andrew avoided eye contact with everyone, sensing he might be next to lose everything he abused. I watched from the outside like a silent architect, seeing dominoes fall exactly how I placed them. Emily started to breathe easier, knowing she wasn't alone against the force that tried to pull her away. Revenge wasn't finished, but justice had begun, and there was no turning back anymore. Corporate moved quickly once the investigation exposed the pattern linking Andrew and the women who enabled him. The consultant's report pointed to negligence and toxic behavior that had been ignored far too long. Andrew was called into a final meeting that lasted less than an hour and ended his career there. His severance vanished into legal bills and settlements before he even packed up his office decor. He sold his penthouse when the mortgage payments crushed him without his executive paycheck. Rumors said he worked for a smaller company now, half his salary, none of his power or pride. Brittany and her friends received their own termination letters with cold corporate language. No sympathy, just policy violations and evidence typed in bullet points they couldn't argue away. Brittany's Instagram lifestyle died the same week because credit card companies demanded payment. Eviction notices came back when she couldn't fake stability anymore behind filters and captions. She moved into her parents' house and deleted every post that bragged about a life she never had. Stacy tried to find new work, but her past scandals surfaced during background checks instantly. No firm wanted liability, dressed up in designer clothes and borrowed success. Olivia and Chloe found low-paying roles far from the shiny corporate world they once flaunted. Their resumes carried stains that interviews could not polish away, no matter how hard they smiled. The group chat that once sounded excited became silent like a tomb filled with regrets. Emily got promoted under a new manager who valued her actual skills instead of exploitation. She earned a raise that made life easier without trading dignity for a richer man's attention. We entered counseling, rebuilding trust on the ashes of manipulation others tried to ignite. Some nights she cried, apologizing for letting their voices echo louder than her own heart. I held her, reminding us both that forgiveness was a choice we made together every day. Our marriage grew sturdier because we learned honesty is stronger than temptation disguised as success. Months later, Brittany showed up at our front door with mascara running and desperation shaking her voice. She begged me to help her get her job back or stop the lawsuits from ruining her future. She said she never meant harm, that it was just talk between friends who wanted excitement. I asked if she remembered calling me a stepping stone that Emily should leave behind happily. I asked if she thought loyalty was cheap and marriage could be traded for jewelry and dinners. She cried harder when she realized her excuses sounded exactly like the poison she once fed Emily. I told her consequences are lessons written in real life, not theories in a chat for entertainment. I wished her luck and closed the door gently, ending the chapter she helped write. Emily stood beside me, fingers interlocked with mine, both of us breathing easier than before. The people who tried to break us were gone, and the love they underestimated survived everything. I learned that when someone threatens your family, you defend what matters without hesitation. We are stronger now, not because the storm never came, but because we refused to let it win. I am not proud of every decision I made, but I am proud that I saved my marriage from being destroyed. People can smile at you while secretly hoping your life collapses so they can feel better about theirs. Emily and I faced the darkest version of betrayal, not physical but emotional and dangerously close to real. We chose to fight for each other instead of letting greed and manipulation win in the end. The world praises wealth so loudly that love can feel like a mistake if money is missing. But love is still the strongest thing when you choose it every day, even when doubt tries to move in. Those who tried to break us learned that treating someone's family as entertainment has real consequences. They wanted drama, but they never expected the story to turn against them so completely. Emily and I now protect our peace fiercely because we know how quickly it can be threatened. We listen more, trust deeper, and refuse to let anyone else write our story ever again. I still keep all the screenshots, not out of anger, but as a reminder of how close we came to losing everything. Our marriage survived the storm, and now every quiet morning feels like a new beginning we earned. If love is just paperwork to some, then they have never fought to keep it alive like we did. This is not a fairy tale, just two imperfect people refusing to give up on each other. And sometimes, that is more powerful than any luxury a stranger can offer.